there's going to be an accentuated focus on the engagement and sustained engagement of this breathing muscle. What happens is when the diaphragm contracts, we understand that there's a spine. If you think of the spine down the center of your abdominals, but back further, of course, towards the back, but from the front of it. The diaphragm is typically at a rest position in like a balloon-like shape or a jellyfish-like shape upward in this position here. Now, it has little tentacles, little muscle fibers that attach down at the lower vertebra here of the spine. And when it contracts, it pulls this balloon-like shape downward, and as a result, you get a negative pressure or a vacuum pulling air into the lungs. Now you have space there, and that's really as simple as that. Contracting the diaphragm creates a vacuum effect which pulls air into the lung. Padadhirasana is a pranayama preparation. It is to try to help balance the nervous system. It's acknowledging that the energy in our autonomic nervous system is constantly flipping back and forth over, let's say, an hour and a half or so between parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. There's always a little bit of a swing of the pendulum like a clock. With Padadhirasana, if I put my right hand underneath my left armpit, that stimulates the right nostril, okay? And the right nostril is left brain awareness or left hemisphere of the brain. But the confusing part is left hemisphere, right nostril, right side of the body is all one, okay? So right side of the body, right nostril, left hemisphere. Now we're talking about Pingala, whereas if you take the opposite, the left arm underneath the right armpit, that's going to stimulate the left nostril, but left nostril, left body, even though the nerve is over here. The nerve is over here, but Ida runs along the left side all the way through the left nostril, and then it crosses over to the right hemisphere of the brain. Okay, so that's the moon channel. But place both hands underneath both armpits and breathe very subtly to observe which nostril is more open. Now, whichever nostril is more open, we want to balance it out. So if your left nostril is more open, then remove your left hand from your right armpit so that your right hand is underneath the left armpit, which will stimulate an opening of the right nostril. If you're the opposite, so if your left nostril is more closed, then keep your left hand under your right armpit. A little Nadi Shodhana, so alternate nostril breathing. A couple ways you can do this. You can fold index and middle finger into the palm, and then you have your right thumb and your ring finger on your right hand, or you can cross, and it can be pinky instead of ring finger. Either way, it doesn't make a difference. Just want to lightly tap the nostril just to close it like a little bit. Think about just pressing something very lightly. You don't want to smash your nose in like side to side, just a little bit to block the airway so that you're going to breathe in and out of the different sides of your nose. So it starts inhaling through the left side. So you close with your right thumb. The breath comes in. At the top, you try to create a suspension. So there's two ways to do that. You can use your external intercostals to keep the ribs lifted, or you can press your belly down and hold it and hold that sustained contraction of the diaphragm moving down. Either way is okay. You can practice both ways, of course. Just decide on one today. And then on the exhale, of course, the belly goes in, ribs go down. You would be doing it out through the right. Then we inhale through the right. Sustain at the top by either suspending the diaphragm downward or using the intercostals to lift the ribs upward. Those are choices that you can make now that you know how to do the two different ones. And then you would exhale through the left. 3-part breath. And that consists of, on the inhale, letting the belly expand outwards. So that means your diaphragm, the muscle that creates a vacuum that pulls air in, the diaphragm will push down on the initiation of the inhale. So just have your hands on your belly, and let's recap that. The belly pushes out. When you exhale, the belly draws back in. A lot of people have reversed their breathing, so just see if you can do that. Inhale, belly goes out, exhale, belly goes in. Now you hear this little sound of a whisper coming through my nose. This is called Ujjayi breath. It happens throughout the entire asana practice, the physical practice of yoga. And in physical practice of yoga, more often than not, the belly is drawn in the entire time and the breathing is now thoracic. So you can see how my hands move apart on the inhale now. It's because my ribs are pushing outward side to side. On the inhalation, exhale, the ribs close, they draw inward. So this thoracic breathing requires flexibility of the muscles between the ribs. That's the second of the 3-part breath. And then lastly, you'll notice if I don't do anything to hinder this, you see the shoulders and the collarbones lift up at the top of the breath. Okay, that's the clavicular breathing. Now, the 3-part yogic breath starts in the belly, goes to the ribs, goes to the collarbones, and then exhale, the collarbones relax, the ribs relax, the belly pulls back, okay? So that 3-part breath, Dirga Pranayama is the name of it. For now, we're gonna try to improve upon our ability to breathe without the efficiency of the diaphragm, which is gonna force us to use what's called thoracic breathing. So our focus today is thoracic breathing, and the reason why is because this is gonna be most applicable to most asana practice. What it's not good for is trying to rest. If you're doing shavasana, like in a kind of a cool down phase, you might want to, if the posture allows, more space for the abdomen to move in and out, because when the abdomen moves in and out with your breathing, it's more relaxing, okay? But when the abdomen's pulled in and up and the breath is up here, it's more exciting, it's more energizing. So it is appropriate for things where we have high activity, such as asana. Now, the deep core transversus abdominis can be strengthened through exhalations, because when it cinches in and it creates that contraction of the abdominal cavity, it will force the exhale out of your lungs. We're gonna start with a breathwork exercise, and this is Kapalabhati, which is known as skull shining or skull cleansing, and in some traditions they might call it breath of fire. Kapalabhati, we will force exhales out by using our abdominals. So hand on belly, and just try to do a few sharp exhales by pulling the belly back. And we're gonna go through our nose, so it'll be like, and I'm trying to be really deliberate about this contraction. What this is creating is a strong, sharp engagement of the transversus abdominis. Bhastrika is both deliberate inhales and exhales, and it's created from the movement of the abdominals, not from the throat and nose that I just did there, but okay, so the purpose is to move the diaphragm, move the transversus abdominis through engagement and release of these muscles.